What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Fantasy Football. My name is Ryan Linklater. I am here with the fantasy football guru, Danny Carpenter. We are talking about the best quarterback drafting strategy in 2025 to help you win your league. And Danny, I don't know about you, but this is an incredibly deep quarterback class. After the top, it completely changes and it is a murky mess. Talk to us about the overview of the quarterback class in 2025.
These top five guys you can take this year. I mean, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow. They're all in that range where they could score 400 points like it's nothing. I mean, it depends on the season. Allen, Jackson, Daniels with their legs, Hurts because he can do the tush push, Joe Burrow because he's Joe Burrow and he has two great receivers and a decent tight end and running back to go with it and stuff. But it's the potential is unlimited, I think, this season too, especially with the league has gone to more of a passing league than what it was in years past, and everything favors the offense. So these guys are just taking advantage of with the skill sets they have.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you that those top five guys, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow, feel like they're in a tier of their own right now. If I were to do a micro tier of those guys, right, you'd have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels in that tier one type category with those guys because those are the true game changers, generational type performances there where they can go get me a 45 bomb if I needed to go win my league. And those guys can just do it. Like Josh Allen, we've seen be the quarterback one, quarterback two, almost on a yearly basis now. It's really, really good to see. And whether you pick him in the late second or beginning of the third, you're what you're going to get out of Josh Allen, and that's an incredibly good feeling at the quarterback position. As far as Daniels and Jackson go, we know they have rushing upside on a week-to-week basis, and if they stay healthy, they're going to be one of the top quarterbacks as well. As far as Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow go, we're both super high on these guys. One, because we know Jalen Hurts is a tush push merchant. He's going to have a ton of rushing touchdowns because of that, even if his passing numbers aren't impressive or good by any means. The tush push gets you fantasy production. He's a safe quarterback, 3, quarterback 4, regardless because of that weekly floor. Joe Burrow, on the other hand, has a terrible defense, has a ton of weapons around him, and is going to have that passing volume despite not having rushing upside to be very good. And he's a guy that stays healthy. He has really good production. He might see a little bit of regression this year, but it really feels like he is that 5th quarterback. Now, Danny, it gets murkier, like I said earlier, heading into the quarterbacks after that. Talk to me about those guys.
You're at the point where do I want to spend up on my running backs and receivers early and wait on the quarterback and hopefully pick the right guy that has the huge the RB1 or wide receiver 1 year and live with a Patrick Mahomes who doesn't put up the big numbers like he used to. He can still put up touchdowns because of the way the offense is set up, but you're just looking for that fine line. Where can I pick the right guy at the right time, more than likely? Those top five guys, I mean, if you take them anywhere in the second, third, early fourth round, you're basically set at quarterback. And you probably, even in one quarterback league, you may not have to draft another guy unless you just want that backup guy just to be safe. But when you get to this next tier guys, you got your Baker Mayfield, you got your Mahomes, you got your Kyler Murray's, those guys like that. There's something about them that if something doesn't go right at the time, they could seriously drop off and be a top 24 quarterback instead of a top 12 quarterback or a top 15 quarterback.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting with those guys for sure. And we'll kind of classify them because outside of, the end of the fourth, I think those top 5 guys are gone. So you're taking a look at that point and you're really stacking up your team in those first 4 rounds to go get a guy like that. And what's interesting about that is you take a look at these guys of Baker Mayfield, who had a career breakout season last year, Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, as well as probably my tier 3 type players.
Mm-hmm.
And with those guys, I think probably Mahomes is the most intriguing for me. He's probably going to continue to rise because of the good news about Josh Simmons being ready, Rashee Rice being ready. This Chiefs offense looks like it's going to be revamped, and he's just in for positive regression. And then you have a guy like Baker Mayfield, who's probably in for a little bit of negative regression. And then you have the upside with Bo Nix, where he was right where he was supposed to be in expected points per game last year.
Mm-hmm.
Get some more talent around him, a stronger running game, should continue to see his increase in fantasy points in year 2. And all those guys are great options at the quarterback position, and they're going to cost you a 5th to 7th round pick, which is nice to see. Like, the best part of kind of waiting on a quarterback till these middle rounds at this point this year is, like, listen, if I get Patrick Mahomes on a good year, he is going to be a QB2 or QB1, even
Yeah.
without the high rushing volume. When I get Bo Nix in these middle rounds, man, I could be really excited about his rushing volume finishing as a top 3 quarterback. And then we all saw Baker Mayfield, what he can
Yeah,
do in Tampa
exactly.
Bay, finishing as a top 3 quarterback. So if you are finding yourself in a position where quarterback makes sense around 5 to 7, where you already established, those 4 key positions on your team, whether that's a tight end premium that you just got, or you have a strong running back room or receiver room, whatever it is, feel free to go draft these guys. They have the upside of some of those top options, that you have with those first 5 picks. Let's talk about the guys that, are probably safer players, but don't necessarily have that upside of QB1 potential. And you'll find them in similar rounds. What do you think of those players mixed in that group?
That group, you get your Jared Goffs, you get your Caleb Williams, you get those type of guys like that. They're they're good enough in their offenses they can have big weeks without putting up big numbers because just the way the offenses are set up. I mean, Detroit, you've got the outstanding running backs. You got Omar St. Brown. You got Jameson Williams on the outside. You got Sam Laporta. Then Chicago, you've got I'm trying to think here. DJ Moore, Roman Duze. You got Burton. Those guys like that. There's opportunities for them to have big days, but it may come far in between, especially since the Lions have a better defense. When they get leads, they're going to kind of run the ball a little bit more, so it may limit what Goff can do. But Caleb Williams, I mean, if they play like they did at the beginning of last season, you could see him have good gains, but may not put up big numbers. That's a thing you run into, and they're not like that top tier guys or even the tier right above them, where there was more consistency from those groups than what it is when you run in that third tier.
Yeah, and it's interesting for sure. Like when you get in here, and like these guys are going to be similarly priced to my tier 3 guys. They'll be around that 6th round. They'll be, between the 6th through 8th round of your drafts, even potentially sneaking into the 9th. Is with these guys. And in this group, you have Kyler Murray, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Brock Purdy, Caleb Williams. Then we'll get into the next tier there. Is that these players, like you mentioned, can go get me a nice 28-point performance, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll feel really good about it. But then Caleb Williams somehow plays in Chicago the next week and it's 20 degrees with the winds gusting. He's
Yeah.
going to have a miserable game. Like it's just the consistency part of it. And you have players like Goff and Herbert who are big regression candidates for me this year. Kyler Murray might just be the most frustrating quarterback out there. But
Yeah.
looking at these guys, like it really feels like the back half is strong this year,
Yeah.
drafting a quarterback here. And those options that we've all talked about, we're already at quarterback 13, where you could have stacked your lineup up, really established every position, and then said, hey, let me go get one of these guys who's been really safe and steady, going to be a great stream against a good matchup,
Yeah.
and they're probably going to be my quarterback on most weeks. That's a really good value, it feels like, with these quarterbacks right now. And then you have in this next year, like the potential high upside guys late in your draft. What do you think of like that tier 5 type of players that could potentially win you your leagues just because they're great values at
Yeah.
this point?
Well, the tier 5 guys, the thing I like about those guys, usually you finding a quarterback who has the potential to have a big year. When he has that potential to have the big year, it allows you to draft him later or even as a backup for one of your, say if you got one of the top 5 guys, you can draft him as a backup. Later on, and say, well, the top guys are having a good year, but the backup guys, that tier 5 guys having a huge year as well. You could trade that top guy and get a better value out of it and some better players for the playoff stretch. That's one thing I always like. Even one quarterback leagues, I've always liked to draft that second quarterback just to have somebody because you never tell injuries. I know one year I had Rodgers when he broke his collarbone. I didn't have a backup at the time, and it was week 6, and there was no good quarterbacks left, and you're stumped. I mean, you're at the pit, you're crow picking what's left over, and sometimes it's not the best things left over. But this year is a little bit deeper, so that seems like it's going to be a better thing with it and stuff. I mean, you may have somebody like an Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I know Arthur Smith offense is not going to allow them to put up big passing numbers, but Aaron Rodgers is also one of those guys. He never need to be put up big passing numbers and throw 3 touchdowns and still give you enough points to be a quality QB1 for that week.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, for sure. When you kind of take a look at these guys, like in this category, right? We're drafting for upside. We're not necessarily drafting for the floor those tier 4 guys provide. Justin Fields is a name that pops up the chart, and you're going to continue to see his name when draft day comes up. Fields has that rushing upside. He has the volume. He's going to be the quarterback 1, and we've seen Justin Fields be a really consistent option in lineups, and he's going as the quarterback 14 on average right now. Like this guy is an absolute value right now. You could just stack your team, say, you know what, let me throw a dart on Justin Fields this year and let's hope it works. And then you also have that, let's say you throw a dart on Justin Fields, you have the luxury of going and getting a guy like Dak Prescott, who's had really good fantasy production in his career, finally now has that wide receiver too in George Pickens. We'll see what happens in Dallas, but he's been really productive over his career in fantasy football. You have that ability if you wait on quarterbacks even later than round 8, right? There's upside, and then there's also consistency. Some other players I really like in here. Drake May is a player who seems like he's going to be taking a step forward this year. JJ McCarthy, a player that, we saw Sam Darnold have a really big year with KOC last year. We know that McCarthy is a little bit more talented than Sam Darnold was. Going to be interesting to see what happens. We've seen Trevor Lawrence potentially rumored to take a step forward under Liam Cohen. You have other players like Jordan Love, CJ Stroud in there. Not big on Stroud, but you have those guys that have produced. And then let's get into our final tier, the absolute Hail Mary prayers. Probably shouldn't draft these guys, Danny. What are we thinking with these players and why you should potentially throw a dart on some of these names like Bryce Young, Michael Penix Jr., some of these other players mixed at the end?
I personally love the young guys. Both of them have some tremendous upside. But the thing is, it's nice you can pick those guys. You're not looking for those guys to start for you. You can pick them, start your tier 1 guy or tier 2 or tier 3 guy, and sit on those guys and see how they do. If they start to produce, and like I said earlier, you can move one of the quarterbacks if you need to, and get some other positions that you need as your season goes on. Because the NFL anymore, the injuries are going to happen, and the teams that figure out how to handle the injuries the best in your fantasy is usually the teams that do well, make it to playoffs at the end of the year. That's the thing.
Yeah, and I think for sure when you're taking a look at this category is like, you don't have to feel the pressure of drafting this guys, but if you love Bryce Young, let's say this year, make him your last pick. Don't pick a defense right away. Go say, hey, I believe in Bryce Young being my quarterback this year. I waited this entire draft. I don't love my quarterback situation. Let's say it's like Justin Herbert this year. I don't love Herbert being a consistent option, and I love Bryce Young's upside. Make Bryce Young your last pick of your draft. Don't let him be an option on waivers for people to go get and, see what happens. Let the season play out. Maybe Bryce Young is as good as he was at the end of last year. Same thing with Michael Penix Jr. Small sample size last year, but he was really impressive if you turn on the tape. Another player that I could see taking a step forward. You have Anthony Richardson in this category as well. Maybe, who knows? He figures out how to complete passes. Would be a big-time addition to fantasy lineups. Cam Ward, who's been Big Ben Jr. comparisons from me, could be a really good player, but is in a tough situation. Like, there are real dart throws here that if you love a player, don't draft a defense. Don't draft a kicker. Draft one of these guys that you could potentially use all season long if you see what happens, and then maybe some other player on your team gets hurt before the season or something else happens, and you can keep them on your bench and stash them. So there are draft strategies for the 2025 quarterback position. Let us know down in the comment section below which strategy you will be following. If you're looking for season-long advice from me and Danny, potentially even live draft help to go get that quarterback you need, make sure you check out the description below and get membership for 15% off using code WINNOW. If not, we will catch you guys next time on Blitz Fantasy Football, and we'll see y'all.